Welcome to Unit 9, Sexual and Reproductive Health for Gender Responsive Schools. By the end of this unit, you should be able to articulate why sexual and reproductive health information and services are human rights, articulate the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships, demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the sexual maturation issues related to boys and girls, describe how schools and teachers can support sexual and reproductive health and rights. Demonstrate an understanding of ways to deal with social taboos on issues of sexual reproduction education. Sexual and reproductive health, SRH, is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being in all matters relating to the reproductive system and its functions and processes. SRH is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, it is much more. SRH also includes sexual health, the purpose of which is to enhance personal relationships and not merely counseling and care related to reproduction and sexually transmitted infections. Sexual and Reproductive Health Rights, SRHR, embedded in international human rights law, includes the right of individuals to make decisions concerning their reproductive health free of discrimination, coercion, and violence. According to the United Nations Foundation, SRHR consists of the right of all persons to seek, receive, and impart information related to sexuality, receive sexuality education, have respect for bodily integrity, choose their partner, decide to be sexually active or not, have consensual sexual relations, have consensual marriage, decide whether or not and when to have children without being stigmatized, and pursue a satisfying, safe, and pleasurable sexual life. SRHR has a profound impact on youth. Adolescence is a dynamic period of change for young people, and for them to navigate this period of time, they must be informed and educated about the new feelings, physical and emotional changes, excitement, questions, and difficult questions they may be experiencing. Strategies to manage new feelings about sexuality can result in them making responsible decisions about their health, reproduction, and parenthood. As they move through adolescence, young people begin to have different kinds of relationships with their peers, family members, and adults. Excellent communication and other relationship skills can help ensure that these relationships are satisfying, mutually respectful, and healthy. A key to boys and girls navigating puberty successfully is understanding the power dynamics and characteristics of a healthy and unhealthy relationship. There are a few different types of power. Power over is a form of authority, control, or domination over others. Power with is rooted in connection, equality, and collective action, and includes both the psychological and political power that comes from being united. Power within is a form of personal agency to make change in one's life or the world around them and describes a sense of confidence, dignity, and self esteem. In unhealthy relationships, power over is the primary dynamic. However, it is not always easy to identify when qualities, behaviors, or characteristics are part of healthy or unhealthy relationships or both. Activity, healthy or unhealthy. The qualities of a healthy relationship all reflect power with or power within. They describe a relationship that is based on equality, connection, respect, and choice. The qualities of an unhealthy relationship reflect power over. They describe a relationship that is based on unequal power. Some qualities might show up in both healthy and unhealthy relationships. For example, you may feel anger in both, but whether it is healthy or unhealthy is determined by how you express and communicate the anger. Understanding what a healthy and unhealthy relationship looks like allows students to identify the kind of relationships they want to have and nurture. Referencing page 87 to 88 of your toolkit, sort the relationship characteristics to the right-hand box into the appropriate category in the Venn diagram. Once you put your responses, the correct answers will appear. Puberty can be the beginning of conflicting messages for girls. On the one hand, girls may be discouraged from seeking out sexual and reproductive health services and information because cultural norms tell them that girls should not be sexually active. On the other hand, they may receive pressure from all directions: boys in their class, people they pass on the street, advertisements, or popular media that they should be engaging in sex. Menstruation is another time of mixed messages and challenges for girls. While menstruation marks the beginning of womanhood, it can also be portrayed as dirty and something to be ashamed of. Menstruation is frequently not discussed at home or school, so girls in many countries have knowledge gaps and misconceptions about menstruation, which in turn causes fear and anxiety and leaves them unprepared for menstruation in many countries. In many countries, schools do not have adequate and appropriate infrastructure, such as separate sanitary facilities, washrooms for girls, water, sanitary bins, emergency sanitary ware, or painkillers. Due to the lack of adequate and appropriate infrastructure to support girls during this period, there is a high rate of absenteeism among girls, as many as 3 days each month, which amounts to about 30 lessons of one subject per year. Girls typically bear the impact of pregnancy, regardless of the circumstance in which they become pregnant. Some national policies exacerbate the effects of unwanted pregnancy when they deny girls who become pregnant the right to attend school or are unclear or do not enforce their policies. Such practices discriminate against the girl child. In many countries, the harmful practice of child, early and forced marriage is also associated with those girls not attending school once they have been booked for marriage or married. FGM is a harmful practice, a violation of human rights, and while illegal in many countries, it is still commonly practiced. FGM can result in infections, pain, birthing complications, and bleeding to death. There are no health benefits. Puberty for boys is accompanied by many physical changes, of which boys can become self-cautious. Their voices break as their vocal cords get longer and thicker. Their faces break out as their hormones change. They may grow facial and body hair or not. They experience wet dreams and unexpected erections. They may outgrow themselves, becoming so suddenly tall and muscular that they are embarrassingly awkward. Or they may not grow as quickly as their peers and may be ridiculed for being small. Boys are frequently pressured by peers and society to be aggressive, assertive, and pursue sex. The pressure to have sex may also result in boys having sex before they are ready. Additionally, while girls are typically the victims of gender based violence, boys can also be victims. Across the world, rigid gender norms and harmful perceptions of what it means to be a man have far reaching consequences on the health and well being of both boys and men, including a discussion about masculinity within adolescent SRHR education can help shape perceptions of manhood and the role of boys and men in society and promote gender equality. What can the role of schools, teachers, and the community be in helping adolescents access SRHR information? Make SRHR information available to adolescents through printed materials or referrals to clinics or professionals. Create safe spaces for honest conversation. Empower students to affirm their bodies and reinforce the knowledge that each student has the right to control his or her own body. See the resource page in your toolkit for youth and child advocate, an educator manual for activities and exercises for children and youth for more activities addressing domestic and sexual violence. Take a moment to write two short stories with male and female characters that illustrate how the various issues around sexual and reproductive health and rights for boys and girls have negatively impacted their lives. In the first story, include how their teacher or school played a role in supporting them to be able to navigate some of these challenges. In the second story, write about something that shows how the teacher or school administrators did not support them. Please refer to pages 89 to 90 in the toolkit. There are many barriers preventing access to youth sexual and reproductive health rights. What barriers have you seen in your schools? Some barriers include government regulations, cultural norms, lack of education and open discussion between adolescents, parents, teachers, and key community stakeholders that may voice strong opinion against SRHR. What policies and regulations have you noticed that limit adolescents' access to sexual and reproductive health information and services? Government officials and other decision makers often enact laws, policies, and regulations that limit adolescent access to sexual and reproductive health information and services in response to perceived public wishes. These laws, policies, and regulations usually require a minimum age, parental consent, or marital status in order to receive the sexual and reproductive health services. What are some cultural practices in your community or region that prevent children from exercising their sexual and reproductive health rights? Culture norms also play a significant role in access to sexual and reproductive health information and services. Even where there are no formal restrictions, many health workers are unwilling or reluctant to provide contraceptives to unmarried or childless young people. Framing sexual and reproductive health as a human right, as discussed previously during this unit and described in section 9.2, can be useful for approaching a conversation with those who oppose adolescent access to sexual and reproductive health, education, and services. It is important to remember that children need to be protected from discriminatory practices such as FGM, early and child marriage, as well as from sexual violence and abuse, so that they can exercise their right to reproductive self determination. What are some common reasons that schools, parents, and community stakeholders limit access to sexual and reproductive health information? Why do you think they may be resistant to providing this information? Sometimes parents and other community stakeholders mistakenly believe that sexual and reproductive health education will encourage young people to engage in sexual activities. However, evidence shows that sexual and reproductive health education contributes to delaying when youth have sex for the first time, decreases how many partners they have, and increases their use of condoms and other contraceptives. There are several strategies teachers can use to help change this and give youth the confidence to access their sexual and reproductive health rights and get support. Provide access to accurate and understandable information, mobilize the community, involve the youth, peer education, host a community conversation, engage traditional and religious leaders, involve caring adults. For each of these strategies, brainstorm how you might integrate this approach in your school. Please reference the creative processes described in your workbook on pages 93 to 96. Despite efforts to prevent adolescent pregnancy, girls may become pregnant. In this case, it is important that teachers and administrators are able to continue to support girls in accessing their rights, including their right to an education. While communities certainly play a role, let's consider how teachers and schools might support adolescent mothers. The following are examples of some of the ways teachers and schools can support adolescent mothers. Ensure that the girls and their parents know their rights and the school's re-entry policy. Provide school-based counseling services or connect her with youth-friendly services. Girls and their parents or guardians should work with the school to develop a school re-entry plan. Provide the opportunities to attend school in the morning or evening, as is done in Zambia. If possible, allow adolescent mothers to select if they attend school in the morning or evening. Ensure that students have access to sexual and reproductive health services and information. Please see the resource page for more information. Additional resources. Up next, Unit 10, School-Related Gender-Based Violence, Sexual Harassment, and Trauma.